So one of the hottest topics right now among meme stocks and some of these things is the subject of commodities or precious metals, specifically gold and silver. I thought it would be a good time to just go on and talk about that for a couple brief minutes because it's something that we're hearing people talk about more and more and asking legitimate questions about those type of commodities and how they might work or function in a portfolio. And the fact that we're hearing more and more about them and people are more and more interested and have more questions, maybe that means they're somewhere near a peak, maybe it doesn't. But there sure is a lot of enthusiasm about it, and we certainly wouldn't try to call a top or a bottom in any investment, but there is a lot of interest about it. First, let me just say that if precious metals are owned as a small sleeve of a portfolio, if it's a 5 or 10% allocation or less, depending on someone's situation, that's legitimate. There's nothing wrong with owning sleeves of alternative investments. But too often what we're seeing or what we're hearing is people maybe are wanting to, considering, or do have a significant portion above that invested in precious metals. And just like any investment, it can be highly volatile and it can have wide swings, and it's probably not a good idea to have more than 5 or 10% of a portfolio in any investment like that. Interestingly enough, I went back and I looked at the last 5 years because over the last 3, 4, 5 years, this kind of come to a head of interest in these type of commodity investments. So I thought I would look back and see some comparisons over the last 5 years. Over the last 5 years, if you were all invested in the stock market, quick disclosure, most people, unless they're 20 or 30 years old, probably aren't all invested in the stock market. But if you were, you probably averaged in the S&P 500 somewhere around 13%, give or take, annualized over the last 5 years. Silver and gold, both somewhere between about 10 and 12% annualized over the last 5 years. So not a lot of difference in return over, say, a past 5-year period. Historically, the S&P has performed precious metals by a far percentage more than that of the last 5 years. So that just kind of tells me that excitement around those precious metals is probably building if it's performing at that level. So just something to think about if you're considering adding precious metals to your portfolio, or if you already own metals, to keep in mind of the run-up in the last few years in those investments, and maybe take a look at that and consider whether something needs to be changed or reconsidered in those portfolios, depending on the allocation that you have toward those metals. Lastly, I wanted to address the issue that I hear a lot of, I want to own gold and silver, or I want to own these alternative investments because if heck breaks loose and things start going wrong and the deficits in the government and all of this stuff comes to a head and everything starts to fail, I want to own precious metals. This is my opinion. But I don't think in that scenario that those type of precious metals, among many other things that are financial, are going to have much value in that scenario. I don't think there's anything that we're going to be able in a doomsday prediction to go out and purchase with gold and silver or any other type of investment for that matter. In that scenario, we'd probably be better off owning canned goods and MREs and things like that we could sustain ourselves on. I don't know about you all, but if we come to that scenario, I'd probably just want to go peacefully and be done instead of being the last one on earth left to fight for my life. But that aside, just wanted to kind of talk about something that's in the news that people are talking about a lot, and just as a reminder that everything in moderation.